been attending your seminars and sessions for many years.
Yes.
And he decided that his excitement was to spend all of his time studying this information to find out his true excitement in life and what he wants to do.
All right.
So he gave
His
up...
excitement is to find out what his excitement is.
Exactly.
I see. All right.
So he gave up his job.
All right.
He moved back east to live with his father.
Yes.
He's been living there for 2 years.
Yes.
And all he does every day is
Yes.
listen to your tapes
Yes.
and meditate.
All right.
And he's now at a position where his father is going to be moving to a small home where he's now going to be basically on the street with no money
All right.
or anything.
I suppose he will find that exciting.
Yes. And what I'm finding
Yes.
is that some judgment is dipping into my belief system.
Why?
I've been helping him to share some of this information with him.
Yes.
And because I'm realizing that my core belief system, which I was given through my parents,
Yes.
is that you have to work hard to get your goals.
I see.
And I do work very hard, but
Yes.
it's also my play.
Yes.
And so I find...
When it is play, automatically people will work at it. It won't be an effort. It will just be hard work because they don't want to do anything else.
Right. So I'm following my joy and I'm doing what I like to do, what I
all
love
right.
to do. But I find myself resisting giving this information to him because I'm finding that I feel in my belief now that
Yes.
he needs to stand on his own and not
All right.
worship you.
That does not necessarily have to be a representation of judgment. It can simply be what you might call an astute observation of what we already pointed out. He's not actually, so to speak, acting on his excitement. He's using his excitement to find out what his excitement is. And in a sense, he is removing himself one step from the actual doing of something that he might actually find will support him. Although it's not impossible that what he's doing will support him, his belief systems may make it more difficult for that to support him until he realizes it's all about actually doing what excites you rather than doing what excites you to figure out what excites you.
Right.
But the idea of no longer feeding him the information might be an astute observation that will give him an opportunity to recognize he needs to move to the next stage and realize he can find his excitement much more easily than he thinks and not spend so much time simply looking for it.
Okay.
Does that help you?
It does. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Hello.
And to you, good day.
Thank you. It's my first time here, so I'd like to ask you some questions if I could.
Oh, all right. I'm supposing that you can ask the questions. Yes.
Yes. I'll just rattle them all off.
Rattle, rattle. All right. Rattle away.
Okay. One is I would appreciate it if you could give me more clarity on what you mean by definition.
Yes.
In other words, the definition, I would appreciate that.
All right.
The other is some examples of like core beliefs
Yes.
of what
right.
those might be.
All right.
And then another would be how to, in other words, when you talk about following your excitement,
Yes.
is it, that one should then follow what excites them and just keep moving in that direction? Is that what you're...
Yes.
Okay.
Because excitement, by definition, is the actual physical translation of the vibration that represents your true core being. So anything that brings with it the highest level of excitement, love, creativity, passion, is actually the thing to take action on, no matter what it appears to be, no matter in what form it comes, because excitement is the thread that leads you to more of yourself and leads you to all other things that can manifest in your life in an exciting way.
So follow that excitement.
By acting on it, yes.
Mm-hmm. By acting on it.
That's the thread to follow. Not how things look on the surface, not what the ego thinks is connected as the next thing you're supposed to be doing, but the things that come to you that contain the highest joy is the signpost, is the marker of the next thing to do. And even though it may not, from your physical mentality point of view, seem like the quickest path, it actually is.
Right, so ironically, although the parents in my personal situation did not encourage that at all, they basically said, follow your duty in a sense.
Yes.
Follow what is expected of you.
Yes.
As opposed to.
Yes.
So, okay.
Now, sometimes it may dovetail with your excitement, but on your planet very often it doesn't.
Correct. All right, so.
Now,
yeah.
the idea of definition is simply that we are talking about ingrained belief and finding out specifically what that belief is, how you have defined your relationship to any given situation. Who you think you are in relation to what's happening in your life is basically what we mean by your definition of yourself in that situation. And the example would simply be that as you experience things, you have either certain kinds of reactions or responses to them emotionally. You follow me?
Yes.
All right. And those emotional responses are completely derived from your definition of who you are in relation to that thing. So on a very simplistic level, if you are in a situation, you find yourself having what you typically as humans call a negative emotional reaction or experience to it, that's primarily because the definitions you have about yourself are allowing you to color your energy in that way. And those definitions are primarily probably out of alignment with your true being. If you experience a response that is joyful to the situation, or at the very least neutral, then most likely your definitions are in harmony with your true self. Who you define yourself to be in relation to that thing is more aligned, more harmonious. A core definition in a situation can be something along this line. Let us say a person feels that they are having negative emotional experiences with regard to the idea that they are struggling to create what they call abundance in their life, and they find it difficult to do so. The idea may be that when they get down deep into their definitions, they may discover that they have been taught conflicting beliefs. In other words, on one hand, the parents may have said, you will never really be successful unless you are rich. On the other hand, they may also have been taught to believe money is the root of all evil. So, what they grow up with is this conflict, and they make a decision about who they are in relation to that, and all of a sudden it becomes more important to them to define themselves as a good person. But because they wish to define themselves as a good person in context to the belief they've been taught to buy into, they will say, well, the only way I can be a good person and not an evil one is to never be rich. And all this may be going on unconsciously within them, and so they will actually do their very best to keep abundance away in order to, in their definition of themselves, be a good person. But that's only because they're associating it to a definition they've been given that means that having money equals the fact that you're an evil person. You have to find that core belief, find out that that's the definition you may have, and then realize, wait a minute, I don't have to define that concept in that way. Just because someone has money does not automatically mean they are evil. You have to detach and disassemble that definition so it's no longer real to you. Bring it into consciousness, disassemble it, and then ask yourself, well, what definition would I prefer in its place? I would prefer to believe that I can be rich and be a good person, that those two things are synonymous, not the other thing. You've created a new definition of what is possible, of what is real. And in truly doing it, if that is really a core belief, you will then, by identifying it and redefining it, create a completely new vibration in your being that will then attract different things in your life that you will then respond to in a different way and experience a different manifestation. Does that explain the idea?
Yes, so when fear comes up, then you look basically at what the fear is expressing as the definition?
Exactly, because you see, you are a 100% energy. And fear is a manifestation of your energy. You experience that energy as fear, by knowing that you have, or by understanding that it's only experienced as fear because it's being run through or being flowed through definitions that are out of alignment with your true self. You experience the very same energy as joy when you then run that energy through belief systems and definitions that are in alignment with your true self. Your true self being an aspect of creation who is unconditionally loving and loved. And so when you have definitions that are out of phase with that, vibrationally out of phase with that, your energy in that sense, its vibrational frequency will become, for lack of a better term, distorted. And you feel that distortion as the emotion you call fear. But that's a good thing, because if you do have those distortions, fear is the alarm bell that knocks on your door and wakes you up and says, hey, I'm letting you know in no uncertain terms, because you can't ignore me, that you have a definition that's out of whack, out of alignment with your true self. And so I'm giving you an opportunity to find out what that is, and therefore the fear has served a positive purpose. And using fear that way, redefining fear in a good way, in a positive way, is the first step toward changing definitions all the way down the line. Anything that comes to you is a messenger with information about more of who you are. And if you use every experience that way, by redefining it that way, then you will experience it that way, and it will take you further and deeper into yourself to discover more and more and more of what it is that makes you tick as a personality. Because your personality is a construct built up out of the definitions you believe are most true. And definitions always give rise to emotions, which always give rise to behavior. You cannot express a behavior without having a feeling, and you cannot experience a feeling without having a definition. If I say to you, you are ashkuda, how do you feel about me saying that about you?
Fine.
Well, not really one thing or another, because you don't really have a meaning for the word, do you?
No.
So you see, if I say, just an example, you're stupid, obviously that starts bringing up feelings in people, because you have given a meaning to the word and made it real. But if stupid becomes as meaningless as ashkuda to you, you will not react. You'll remain neutral and realize it's just a definition, and you can choose to give it a positive or negative spin as it relates to yourself, or recognize it has nothing to do with you, and then simply go on your way without having an emotional negative reaction to it. But it's all stemmed from the definition first. Without the definition, there is no feeling. Without that feeling, there is no behavior. So all behavior stems from feeling, which stems from definition. So if you're behaving in a way you don't prefer and you're feeling in a way you don't prefer, follow that trail back to the definition by asking yourself the penetrating question, what would I have to believe is true about myself in order to be having this emotional experience and this behavior in this situation? And that will be the first step towards disassembling that definition and digging down deeper to the core, because there may be something else under that that will support that idea. So, going back to the idea of the definition that equated being evil with having money and moving things away from yourself that would cause abundance, there may even be a deeper belief that allows you to perpetuate that allows you to even consider that belief as being real. And the deeper belief may have to do with things like your own sense of self-worth. Well, I may intellectually understand that it doesn't mean you're automatically evil when you're rich, but I still can't seem to break through that idea of attracting abundance to myself. Well, maybe there's a deeper core issue even underlying that has to do with believing whether or not you're even worthy to try. You understand? Mm-hmm. Is this helping clarify the idea?
Yes, it's helping to clarify the idea, and then the best way then to handle that is to then look and see what those beliefs are.
Well, yes. I mean, the best way is whatever is your way. We are giving you ideas that you can use as tools, but of course your imagination will adapt them. But generally speaking, on a fundamental level, yes, it is important, because you are a physical personality construct, it is important to find out what you're actually made of. in order to adjust the construct that you are, the three-sided construct of definitions, emotions, and behaviors. You have to know what you're made of. So getting in touch with the fundamental definitions is like going back to the blueprint. If the house is leaning sideways and the materials it's made out of are shoddy, go back to the original blueprint and say, well, I can see that there's something here that's off in the blueprint. And that's why the workers brought shoddy materials, and that's why the house is leaning. If I correct the blueprint and say, no, get this material and build it this way, then they will bring in stronger materials and the house will stand straight. You follow me?
Yes, and then start acting as if, in other words.
Well, of course, because it is. You act as if because it is.
And that automatically changes the vibration of your
That
being.
changes the vibration. And then the last step you need to be aware of is to make sure you understand that physical reality is just a mirror, but that it's not always one-to-one, that it's neutral as a set of props. So, in other words, knowing that you're changing your vibrational frequency, knowing that you are changing your reality, does not always mean you will immediately see a change in the circumstance, in the set of props around you, outside of you. The first stage in truly expressing that you know you have changed, acting as if, you say, is to respond differently to the same situation than you did before. By responding differently to the same appearing situation than you did before, that is when you give the situation leave to then be more truly reflective of the change that has happened within you, because now there is conviction in you that you've changed, regardless of what things look like on the outside. You now know that things on the outside are just neutral props, devoid of meaning, no built-in meaning, that you determine the meaning. So even though it may look the same, you're now saying, I am giving it a different definition. I now know it's not an interruption or an obstacle. I now know it's part of my path and it serves me in a positive way. I'm redefining it. And by responding differently to it, then it has the best opportunity to actually change the outside reflection. But the first step is not the outside changing. The first step is knowing and behaving as if you truly are different in relation to what's going on outside.
So
because there
change-
really is no outside.
To change for change itself rather than for outcome.
Yes, exactly. When you change for change itself, the paradox is you change the outcome. When you change for the outcome, you've never really changed.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes.
Thank you.